Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my week number 6 top 10 waiver wire ads for fantasy football in 2021. Inside today's video, I'm going to be going in depth talking about every single player ranked inside of my top 10 waiver wire ads of the week, as well as explaining why I believe that you guys should head on over to the waiver wire right now and pick these players up. But before we do get on into things, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you do hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure you hit that like button. It would help us out a ton. And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFNTSY. So without further ado, let's get into my top 10 waiver wire ads of week number 6. We begin at number 10 with Hunter Renfrow, wide receiver of the Las Vegas Raiders, this week going up against the Denver Broncos in Denver. Now, Hunter Renfrow is far from this sexy pickup that you add to your team and you're like, you know what, maybe this guy could get 25 plus points in this matchup, or really any matchup. That's not going to be the case with Hunter Renfrow, but what he does do every single week is be the definition of consistency for your roster. You throw him in as your wide receiver 2, you throw him in as your flex option, and you know that this guy's going to be seeing targets, he's going to catch the ball, and things probably are very unlikely to go completely opposite of the direction of Hunter Renfrow, meaning that things are probably not going to go bad when you play Hunter Renfrow. Last week, he had 6 receptions on 8 targets for 56 yards up against the Chicago Bears. And I mind you, this was a game that the Las Vegas Raiders offense as a whole struggled immensely. This did not look like the Las Vegas Raiders team of the first couple of weeks of the season. I understand they didn't look all that great up against the Chargers in that Monday Night Football game, but they still looked a lot better than they looked up against the Chicago Bears. I expect the Raiders to have a bounce-back game this week up against a tougher Denver defense. I still think Hunter Renfrow is a very reliable option at the wide receiver position to continue to want to add onto your roster. I know I've talked about him over the last couple of weeks, but not enough people have added him at this point, so I want to continue to talk about Hunter Renfrow until he's on more lineups, because like I said, I really do believe this guy is the definition of consistency. Next up at number 9, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver of the Detroit Lions, going up against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, all year, it has been a huge discussion on who the Detroit Lions wide receiver number 1 is. We've seen Khalif Raymond do it, we've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown do it, and we have seen Quintez Cephus do it. So it has been very confusing. It has been a rocky road all season at the wide receiver position for the Detroit Lions. The first 2 weeks of the season, the gates come out hot for TJ Hawkinson. This man is on fire. And then the last 3 weeks of the season, in week 3, 4, and 5, the dude has been a complete and utter fucking disaster for your fantasy lineup. But you want to know who has been up and coming in this team the last 2 weeks? That has been Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's the leader in receptions for the Detroit Lions in the last 2 games. Week 5 up against the Minnesota Vikings in a crushing defeat. I'm talking about this defeat was so bad that Dan Campbell was crying after the game, which made me feel a little bad. 7 receptions in that game for Amon-Ra St. Brown on 8 targets for 65 receiving yards. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown is way more risky than Hunter Renfrow, but every week the upside for Amon-Ra St. Brown being on a team that is just so bad that's going to have to be throwing the ball a lot late on in these games, that could lead to a lot more receptions for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Thus, he is my number 9 waiver wire ad on the week. Next up, we move to Tomlinson.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NFL Deeper Dive Showdown Edition, presented by Prize Picks. I'm Dave Loughran. With me, as always, every Monday night, Matt Savoca at Draftaholic on Twitter. Hit me up at Lofty_D. And, well, we'll have some fun over there. Whether you want to be nice, mean, indifferent, doesn't matter, Matt. Interaction, engagement, it's a good thing. And we like the people that watch this show.
That's right. And on Twitter, there's nothing but positive engagement. I've never seen anything else except for positive engagement on Twitter. Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm Matt Savoca at Draftaholic on Twitter. Thrilled to be here. We got a great one. The two Baltimore franchises, the former Baltimore and the current Baltimore, in Baltimore tonight.
Yeah, it's so funny, though. You look on Twitter now, right? And if you venture outside of sports into anything, it's like now they have this disclaimer that said this may be a sensitive conversation, right? So now they're just shielding everybody from the hellacious shit down below. That's
the nicest way to say, like, we do not condone anything you're about to see or hear. It could get ugly from here on out.
It would be so much better if it just said, like, warning, it's about to get ugly. You know what I mean? That'd be so much better. But
I like that alert a lot more. Yeah.
It would be fun. People just need to relax, man. If you don't want to see stuff, just look away. You know what I mean? That's all. Matt, if you get scared easily, don't go to haunted houses.
I would agree with that. It's not real life there, and certainly people treating it like that.
That's a great point. Yeah. Twitter is zero. It is not. Yeah. All right. Whatever. Let's get into this. Happy to have you guys with us. As always, Larry C. Yes, you are right. Shout out to everyone in chat already and everyone that hit that thumbs up. We're almost at 100 likes. We haven't done anything but talk shit on Twitter, Matt, and we're almost at 100 likes.
Well, I guess it's the platform versus platform wars that we are getting the engagement just from that right now. Being polarized.
But hey, today's going to be a fun show. Colts, Ravens, 7.5 point spread, 46.5 point total. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Greatly appreciated. We got 500 people watching out of the gate. And if you haven't subscribed yet, baby, let's make that happen. Cruised past 60K thanks to you wonderful people. And I think we'll be at 70K soon enough. And as you know, if you hate it here and you decide it's an awful decision that you subscribe, all you have to do is click unsubscribe. You know, we're not going to show up at your house late at night asking why you aren't subscribed to Awesemo anymore. Matt might consider it, but he won't. We just asked you, give us a shot. What's that?
If you ask me to, you know.
Not yet. I mean, we're not there yet. But yeah, if you don't like it, unsubscribe. I think you'll like it here. And if you want to join, hit that join button. Get the custom emojis, the badges. I love seeing the 6-month badges roll in as well. It looks like Jake Hari's got one and a bunch of other. Jordan, you got a 6-month badge now. Yeah, hey, big time in us. All right, what do you say we dive into this, Matt? We got a lot to talk about.
Let's do it. Let's dive in.
Okay. So we'll hit on each team. We'll build a lineup. Matt Kajeski and I on a strategy show today build a lineup with Lamar and then tried to get different elsewhere in really only 1 or 2 spots. And then without Lamar at captain, because there is a stat, and I know you've looked at it already, Matt. You dig into these tools. Over at the Awesemo top plays, Showdown top plays tool, which is totally free today. It's awesome. It gives you the probabilities that these guys are going to be top overall score 2 through 6. Compare it to their ownership in the captain spot or in the utility spot. And I know you've seen it. Lamar Jackson has almost a 60% likelihood of being the top scorer on this slate. I'm not joking when I say this. I'm not sure I've seen that number. And if I have, I don't remember seeing it that high.
Well, you know what? It just makes this one game slate really, really interesting. When you have a player like Lamar Jackson, who is so slate breaking at his highest, at his ceiling, that we have to make decisions around that based on what we believe Lamar Jackson does from a fantasy perspective in this game. Basically, that has a trickle-down effect on the entire game flow of the game. And so it's really cool in football, where it's such a big team sport, to have one player have such a massive influence on the game flow, the game environment, and all the skill players around us. You know, what's really interesting, and by the way, I'm glad you mentioned that tool, that top plays tool, which is free today, because I believe that is the best tool, and the main slate version of it, called the boom bust tool, it may be the best tool for DFS that we have, because one of the really cool things is it can actually tell us with math, with numbers, why and when to eat the chalk. Because sometimes, guys, sometimes players are popular because they're really good, but it's hard to quantify when that moment becomes, well, are they too popular? In this case, we're looking at Lamar Jackson, and he actually has a positive leverage score on DraftKings, meaning that the ownership is warranted. We're probably going to recommend you be with the field or over the field. Now, of course, if you want to get different and fade, just like you were talking about what you did with Matt earlier today, we're not going to say don't go against it. We're just also saying it's very fine to see this ownership coalesce around this player.
Absolutely. And you're not even shilling either, because like Steve Buzzard, the Colts Millie Maker winner, does some shows with us, does a ton of work behind the scenes. I remember people being in the Awesemo office hours channel where you have our pros answering questions and helping you out and asking them like, so what's your process for NBA? He's like, well, I use the boom bust tool a lot. They're like, what about MMA? He's like, I use the MMA top fighters tool a lot. And, you know, Steve will admittedly tell you, he's not the biggest in terms of knowing everything about the sports in terms of stats and everything. He's just really good at using the tools. And these days that'll take you pretty far. But yeah, Matt, when you're looking at strategy, and I see all you guys joining, I'll get to you in a second. When you look at strategy for today, how much sense does it make to say, all right, I'm going to leave some salary here because yeah, there are some expensive players. Lamar's expensive. Marquis Brown's probably a little too expensive, but it's not like last night where you had Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes. Like you had so many expensive players. Today's a far cry from that.
Yeah, I think it's a slate where you absolutely could leave salary on the table. It's not something I generally recommend, but it is really interesting here because once you get away from Jackson, then suddenly there is all these salary available options for you. I'm not going to say go crazy and suddenly leave several K on, available on your lineup, but hey, we're trying to be unique, especially in large field tournaments. If that means leaving salary on the table more so than other weeks, we can do it here.
All right, let's dive into this one with the Colts. I will say though, John Jefferson, thank you for the super chat, says, what's up, gents? Always love the content. Who's your favorite GPP low cost play on FanDuel? You're the best hype man, Laffy. I watched a lot of Flavor of Love when I was younger. You don't even know what that is, do you?
Flavor of Love. I've heard of it.
Jordan, you know what it is? What? Yes, nailed it. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen clips of it.
Flavor of Life. What better hype man was there than Flavor Flav? Thanks, John. Appreciate it. Matt, we'll just knock this out quick. Favorite low cost play on FanDuel for GPPs?
On FanDuel, I really like Nyheim Hines. I think with the game flow, the way this game could go for Indianapolis, they're going to be relying on short area targets. Yes, there was this blow-up game from Mo Alley Cox. That's all about short area targets in the red zone. But I think we're going to see Carson Wentz relying on dump-off passes. So I really like Nyheim Hines. Spoiler alert, I've got him in our betting segment later on today, too.
Yeah, we have a good one once we get to Odd Shopper, no doubt. Clayton, welcome to Team Awesemo, brother. Actually, your name is still up on that jersey from when I was putting super chat people up there. And Jay Breeze Solo, welcome to Team Awesemo. Happy to have you guys part of the team here. All right, Matt, let's make this happen. We'll kick it off on the road or with the road team. Indianapolis Colts getting 7.5, sub 20 implied total here. And you said to me before this show started, and I don't disagree with you. The Colts have a first-round draft pick on the line. Well, a second that converts to a first to the Eagles if Wentz plays 75% or more of snaps or 70% and they make the playoffs. Seems very unlikely at this point. But you said you could see them bench him going forward if they lose this game tonight in Baltimore.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that Carson Wentz has been unstartable in terms of his replacement level play at the quarterback position. And I know the AFC South is just trash overall. So 1-3 in the NFL is very different than 1-3 in the AFC South. I don't know if I said NFC, excuse me, the AFC South.
Yeah.
It's a trash division. So I know that their playoff odds are probably a little bit different, but at the same time, you cannot give up this first round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. I consider the Colts front office to be one of the more savvy front offices in the NFL. They have to know the value of this pick, and they have to know that this franchise, as it sits with Carson Wentz at the helm, is not going anywhere, especially with these injuries all over the place. You got probably their best player in Quentin Nelson sitting on injured reserve. I know it is uncomfortable if you're a Colts fan to hear this, and it is really against the zeitgeist of football to throw in the towel this early. But come on, you cannot give up your first round pick for this level play of Carson Wentz. See what you got with your others below him. I don't know what else to say. If they lose this game, I think this could be the penultimate start for Wentz.
Any narrative here, or is it just, I mean, we're looking at a rough game from Wentz. It's not an easy matchup. Given the sub 20 point implied total, Paris Campbell's been deadly quiet this season. The tight end position is, comprised of what, Jack Doyle and Mo Alley Cox. So you got Pittman, you have Pascal, and then really, this is the biggest thing for me, and I don't want to jump around, but just to kind of set the table, Matt, can you get the run game going today? Can you get Nyheim Hines out in space and create big plays that way? Because otherwise, I don't think Pittman's going to be enough to get the job done.
No, I agree with you. And, it might be very simplified, but they are an old school mentality team. The Indianapolis Colts are. They want to get the ground game going. They want to get Jonathan Taylor with a bunch of chunk plays on the ground. But the problem is here, I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it with multiple injuries on the offensive line. I just see Baltimore, who, by the way, hasn't been as spectacular defensively as they're used to. They still have a pretty solid defensive line. They're 11th right now in the NFL in yards per carry allowed. I was noticing that Baltimore is right at league average, 16th in points per play allowed. That's not something where we're going to take people away, very far away from their expected or projected stats. But still, ultimately, Jonathan Taylor has been a massive disappointment when you compare his opportunity level to his production level. Top 10 in red zone touches and just way outside the top 10 in total touchdowns.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about goal line opportunities, coming into this week, he was leading the league in goal line carries. Like, I guess the question there, though, right, is, all right, so do we not expect some positive regression here? Last year as a rookie, I think he converted 50% of his goal line carries into touchdowns. It feels like it's only a matter of time before he starts punching some of them in. And Matt, the touchdown that he had last week was not in the red zone to begin with. So I don't know, man. He's got what, seven goal line carries already, 10 inside the 10, which is remarkable when you consider the fact that they've only won one game.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I actually got to take that. I kind of agree with you. Kind of looking at the advanced metrics with Jonathan Taylor, I think you could call him a regression candidate. Are we calling the offense quality? No. But you're talking about a really high quality running back in Jonathan Taylor. His evaded tackles, his total evaded tackles right now, number 2 in the NFL with 51. His juke rate, which is evaded tackles divided by total touches, number 1 in the NFL at 73.9%. That's fantastic. And he's top 10 in breakaway runs as well. So if he can get some space, I think that changes the dynamic for the entire Colts offense. If he's able to break a few, that definitely helps things. I'm not saying it's impossible here, but I just don't see it as the most probabilistic outcome.
Like you said, we're going to talk about what we both think is a great bet for Nyheim Hines later on in the show. But as it stands, man, the one game that you thought he probably would have had more opportunities through the air that he didn't was the Rams. Last week against Miami, they only won by 10, but they had firm control of that from the beginning. In the 2 games where they were playing catch up from the jump, you had him with 8 and 6 targets, 5 and 6 receptions respectively. And Nyheim Hines is the type of guy that can rip off some touchdowns, some long receptions. What do you do with somebody like him today, who I wouldn't say, you mentioned him as a good value on FanDuel. I agree. On DraftKings, I look at him as not overpriced, not underpriced, just appropriately priced at that 5,600 mark.
Yeah, I am a sucker for these kinds of running backs. One of the stats I always look at with running backs is quality opportunities. That's their amount of targets and touches inside the 10. And if you don't have access to that, red zone touches will do just fine. But those opportunities are of much higher quality compared to rushes inside the 20, which mostly have gone to Jonathan Taylor. So exactly what you said there. I see on his 2021 resume already, he's got a 6 target game and an 8 target game. And I look at this as a game where they're probably going to be playing from behind. I easily see this as another 6+ target game for Nyheim Hines. And you know what's surprising, actually? he actually has 5 red zone touches as well. So basically what we're seeing from the Colts is that they're relying on these 2 running backs, and as we saw last week, their tight ends inside of the red zone. So I think you could do a whole lot worse, especially on FanDuel, where touchdowns are worth even more in that half PPR format.
So it sounds like you like Hines quite a bit. Jonathan Taylor, like, you have some interest, but it's lesser likelihood that he pays off at his respective price point. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think basically you need a multi-touchdown game from Taylor because he doesn't have that receiving floor. Now, of course, that's possible in this 1-game slate, but to predict it, that's pretty tough.
Okay, now, as far as pass catchers go, no, actually, let's go with Carson Wentz first. People expected the, revitalization of Carson Wentz, right? Rebirth, so to speak, Matt. It didn't happen, okay, coming from Philly. It did not happen. But he hasn't actually been terrible in 3 or 4 games, and I say that loosely. In terms of fantasy production, he's been somewhat palatable, but he's not going to win you tournaments on main slates. So that gets to my point of, on a showdown slate, does 19 or 20 from Wentz in a game like this get it done, or are we going to need a lot more from him at his salary?
Yeah, I'm just not in on this player, especially with what we know about his injury status. Yes, it's great that he was able to come back from the ankle and foot problems that he had earlier in the preseason, but the rushing upside is just not there for Wentz. And I just don't trust him as a pocket passer at all. Some of the advanced metrics that I look at, expected points added per play and completion percent versus expectation, the rest of the league's expectation. Wentz is ranked 25th right now in the NFL next to Jared Goff and Ben Roethlisberger. That is not incredibly inspiring for me. So I think you're just paying a lot for 15 points, the safety of a dozen or so fantasy points. And unless we're talking about strictly cash games here, where quarterbacks are generally, we're trying to just get both of them, if at all humanly possible, into our lineup. I guess because of ownership, the difference between him and Jackson, you can say, okay, I'm just playing it as a game theory play, but I just don't see it from a football standpoint.
It's tough, man. And Eric, our boy Eric Lindquist, coming up next with Matt Gajewski. That's how you plug something, Matt. Says, Laffy is so relieved Wentz sucks. No, Matt and I talked about this before the show. I don't want him to suck. Like, I don't want him to be amazing. I don't want him to win the Super Bowl. But Matt, as an Eagles fan, I should want him to be serviceable.
You should want him to be unbenchable.
Yes, unbenchable, right.
You remember when the Bills benched Tyrod Taylor when they were somewhat in the middle of a playoff race? Do you remember how bad the publicity was for that team when Nathan Peterman stunk it up? They don't want anything near that. He's benchable right now, I promise you. And if he gets smoked tonight, they could do it after this week. Not saying they will, but they could.
I hear you. Love It says we need 1,000 likes. That would be amazing. We're over 200 already, though. So I mean, I'm grateful as it is. But I mean, listen, you guys want to push us up to 300? I'm not going to hold it against you. As a matter of fact, I'd be very appreciative. And I did just want to mention this one comment. Where is it? Clayton said, he said, I can't find it, but he said, Matt is always so prepared. When I win the Millie, I'm going to hire him to organize my closets.
Does this bring you joy?
Yeah. You are prepared, man. You do good work here. I think everyone recognizes it. And that's why I love doing shows with you.
Appreciate you.
I guess I'm a little bit, as I say that, I'm gonna go a little bit against you here. I guess just because it's a showdown slate, right? And just because our options are limited, and because I don't have an immense amount of faith in the run game for Indianapolis, I can't help but think that I probably will have a decent amount of Wentz. Do I want to captain him? I don't. But it feels like let me put it to you this way. There aren't an insane amount of salary. And if you disagree, let me know why, so we can, hash this one out. There aren't a ton of salary restrictions on this slate. I'm not saying you can just go down the list and play this top 6 players in salary. That, of course not. That would be stupid. But you don't have any type of restrictions like we have in some of these insane games as we saw last night between the Bills and the Chiefs. So it feels like a 20 spot from Wentz could absolutely be in the optimal today. Not as the optimal captain. I don't see that. But he does have a 67% chance of being 2 through 6, and then 41% chance of being an optimal utility player, which is by far the the third highest on the slate, behind Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I'm seeing a very, very high 2 to 6% again in that top plays tool, where we can actually see that Carson Wentz is a part of the optimal lineup almost 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
So in that regard, he's not a bad play. And, there's only 3 players that we're showing as having a 10% or higher chance of being the optimal captain, and Wentz is one of them. Guys, he's a quarterback. He scores fantasy points. He could rush things in, have 1-yard rushes, even if his legs aren't what they usually are. This is still very possible here. I just see the game flow and the safety of the Ravens game flow as something that I want to bet on more often. I'm not saying that Carson Wentz is a bad play at all. I just think when you're moving away from the optimal, when you're getting out of projections and you're thinking in a more GPP manner, I just don't see it with Carson Wentz.
I'm with you there. I just think, I don't want to get him to captain, but I will definitely have some like Wentz, Pittman, and Mo Alley Cox lineups. And I tell you, Pittman has a 31.4% target share since week 2 over the last 3 weeks. Solid, right? 7 red zone targets over that span. I'll take that all day long. Those are solid numbers that I can work with. There's no doubt about it. But Zach Pascal, interestingly enough, has 9 red zone targets on the season, leads the team. Leads the team. 7 inside the 10 and 2 goal line targets. So those 2 guys both offer unique upside. One of them just in the extremely high target share and what I believe to be probably positive touchdown regression, just based on the archetype that Michael Pittman is. He's a big body receiver. He can make 50-50 catches. He can be useful in the end zone. And then Pascal, who has been the clear top red zone target. So how do you approach these guys tonight?
Yeah, I think you should give credit to Zach Pascal's a pretty athletic big guy as well. 6'2", 220, 32-inch arms. That's over 50th percentile according to Player Profiler. This guy's really made a name for himself after being undrafted in 2017. So, 6 end zone targets, 3 touchdowns so far. You could do a lot worse in terms of expected opportunity. And then you see his salary. I absolutely am fine going to Zach Pascal. They want Michael Pittman to be a thing. They want him to be the alpha receiver. So even though we're seeing lots of end zone usage and red zone usage, that's the creativity of I forgot the Indianapolis Colts. I almost said Nick Sirianni. I was like, that's the Eagles. It's Frank Reich over there, former Eagle. That's right. But they want Michael Pittman just based on his draft stock, based on how this player wants to be utilized, and based on the continued absence of T.Y. Hilton. I really think we're going to see a big breakout game for Pittman. We have 1 game over 20 fantasy points this season. I certainly think there's more in his future.
Me too. As long as you're averaging double-digit targets each week, I'll be willing to get there. I know you don't care too much about this, but I'll ask anyway. Any quarterback or cornerback wide receiver matchups bother you, or is this just a spot where you run them out there if they're getting the volume?
Yeah, I'm not seeing it here. I look at a stat called schedule adjusted fantasy points allowed. The Colts are just ahead of average, but passing on them has been easier than rushing on them. The Ravens as well. Wow, crazy brain fart there. Ravens just ahead of league average there. It's pretty neutral. So no cornerback matchups I'm super concerned about right now.
What do you do with the tight end spot? Look, I know these guys haven't been great, but it is definitely one of those nights where when Mo Alley Cox goes for 2 touchdowns like he did last week again, I won't be scratching my head. I'll hopefully be saying, oh, good, I have some Mo Alley Cox lineups.
Yeah, hey, Mo Alley Cox still only has an 8% target share on the season here. So we're not getting crazy, but Jack Doyle, this isn't Andrew Luck's Jack Doyle anymore. He's playing on 54% of snaps and actually seeing a slightly larger target share at 11%. But again, these are low probability plays. You're looking at probably multiple touchdowns for them to be really needed in your lineup here. and they're not popping in the top place tool at all here. I will say there's another tight end, but on the other side, that is.
Yeah, he is. And that's actually the guy that has the second highest, one of the highest optimal probabilities today. And we'll talk about him for sure. Mo Alley-Cox does have 3 red zone targets. So does Jack Doyle. So if you're rostering them, you're essentially just hoping that you're guessing, right? You are guessing here at this point when it comes to your tight ends. You'll want, if you're playing a lot of lineups, you're going to want to have some Mo Alley-Cox and Jack Doyle. That's just the way it is. But if you're
absolutely.
playing one lineup, Matt, let's say single entry, the $15 one, I think it's like $100K prize pool, $15, several thousand people in it. Are you going, if in one single entry lineup, are you going with either of those tight ends for the Colts?
Yeah, actually, I don't mind doing it in that regard because the Colts only have 5 non-running backs who have gotten a single red zone target this year. And of that 5, 2 of them are tight ends. I'm fine going to, going to both of them. Mo Alley-Cox or Jack Doyle.
Cool. Any thoughts on kickers here or on the defense? But and by the way, everyone likes to call Rodrigo Blankenship Ben Rasa. They think there's a comparison there between the two. So I mean, I don't see it, but more so when he's in the helmet and he's trotted out onto the field. Like I could see some Ben Rasa in that, but not in the headshot.
Hey, you know what? I am seeing a little bit of Captain Optimal for both Blankenship and Justin Tucker, a combined 5% chance that we have a kicker in the optimal. Usually the kickers are just decent cash game plays because their floor is underrated, but their ceiling is a little bit overrated here. If anyone could give us a giant ceiling game, I'm sure it's Justin Tucker, but usually I'm pretty meh on the kickers in general. I kind of like the Baltimore defense, like a dismantling of the Colts game script. I don't think that's out of the question here.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And we'll talk about that Colts defense for sure. They have really, really struggled in one facet of their defense. And before we do that, is there anything else here? Any other pass catchers, any tertiary options that may stand out to you that could be great leverage spots in a large field tournament?
I guess we haven't talked about Paris Campbell. We do need to mention his name. 61% of snaps.
He's really let you down. I
know. But these are the types of plays that win someone money in a one-game slate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, no red zone targets for the guy, but still we got a 10% target share on a team that probably is going to be playing from behind. Paris Campbell, again, I had high hopes for him coming out of school, was more productive on the same Ohio State team as Terry McLaurin, but so far it's been a slow going for his NFL career.
So Marlon Mack had 10 carries last game, but a lot of that you would assume is just because they were playing with a lead. It's hard to believe he has any usage at all tonight.
I guess so. I still feel like they're trying to show him off so that he can get traded because he formally asked for one. This is not the same Marlon Mack as before. I'm thrilled to see him out there, but yeah, he's I guess 10 carries is nothing to scoff at, and 2 targets, 12 opportunity is more than I would expect, but I think you're going to get closer to his week 2 share, which was just 5 carries and 1 target, maybe in some mop-up time if it gets really ugly down the stretch.
So here's the thing though, Matt, when you have the luxury of being able to show him off like they did last week, it's a little bit different than being like, man, if we can show Marlon Mack off this week while we're down by 10 points and want to run the ball, maybe we can get a 7th round pick for him. I don't think there's enough of a payoff there.
I guess so. I mean, if I'm losing big in an NFL game, I'm certainly not running my starting running back.
Well, that's why I said 10 points. I'm saying if they're trying actively to win this game throughout, 10 points isn't enough to just give up.
We're in total agreement there.
Yeah, but it's just arbitrary. We don't know it. We don't know what it's going to be. Anyway, let's move over to the Baltimore Ravens. Before we do, shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. I know a lot of you are already playing over there and love it. Yes, I say it all the time, but it looks good, and that's important to me. You want it to look good. You want to feel good when you see it, right? Now, in all seriousness, though, you go to prizepicks.com, download the app in the App Store, Google Play Store. You'll see exactly what I mean. It's daily prop-based contest over there. So it's no multi-entry in terms of like straight MMA playing against 150 other lineups. There's no optimizers. There's no sharks, none of that stuff. The coolest thing about all of this, though, when you're looking over at Prize Picks isn't the fact that, well, you get $100 up to $100 first match deposit bonus when you sign up using the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. But the fact that you can research for DraftKings or FanDuel or sports betting, whatever it is, and all of that research is going to play into what you do over at Prize Picks. So what's cool is, like, say you already get your lineups in for DraftKings, for FanDuel, you get your bets in, go over to Prize Picks. It's a phenomenal spot to build your bankroll. And here's how you do it, right? 5-player lineups, okay? Or 2, 3, 4. But I know the way that we are, Matt, we all want to, maximize our profits. So I just go straight to the 5 prop lineups. You're basically creating a parlay with lineups, all overs or unders, okay? There's no juice. There's no actual line. It's just the over or the under on all of these props. And again, you've already done your research. You could do up to 5. You could do 2, 3, 4, 5, but a 5-player lineup, winning it can net you up to 10 extra entry fee. And if you have knowledge of multiple sports, you could do a 5-player lineup for basketball, baseball, football, esports, whatever it is, all into the same one. Tie it all into the same one. So download it in the App Store, Google Play Store, or play at prizepicks.com. And here, use our tools at Awesemo because they're entirely free and they're going to give you that edge. NFL and MLB player prop tools to help you make the best decisions over there at prizepicks.com. Check it out and use the promo code Awesemo. All right, Matt, let's make it happen. On the other side of this game, Baltimore Ravens facing the Colts, whose defense in the secondary has really struggled this season. So let's just start with the passing game first. Colts allowing 8.4 yards per attempt, 11 passing touchdowns. They're 29th in pass coverage according to PFF, 26th in DVOA according to Football Outsiders. Not great, Bob.
Yeah, seriously. And there goes my stats. Way to roll them off. Who says you aren't prepared?
Man. You've got 1,000 other obscure stats that you can roll out here.
That's right. That's right. Of course I do. But hey, this is not a quality secondary. And yes, they were dealing with injuries right from the get-go. But what I'm really interested in is, can this Baltimore Ravens passing attack that on a per pass level has been one of the best in the league continue this up? One of the things that's been really interesting that I was looking at as I was researching this game and writing the matchups column that I write for these showdown slates is that we've really seen a 1A, 1B, 1C situation open up for the Baltimore passing game. And it's actually been to the benefit of Lamar Jackson. This is the highest yards per attempt he's ever had in his career. Actually, he's averaging 280 passing yards per game over the last 3 games. So exciting to see Lamar Jackson, the passer, take that next step. And we don't have to tell you what he can do, how lethal he can be with his legs. So yeah, let me get back into that 3-headed monster that they have going in the receiving game. We have 3 players right now in Mark Andrews, Sammy Watkins, and Marquis Brown who have at least 18% of the air yards and at least 21% of the targets. And then Devin Duvernay and everybody else is well behind. So if we're talking about playing this game or how I like to play this game, let's get onto this Baltimore passing game, which has been really, really strong over the last few weeks before the public picks up on the fact that that Lamar Jackson can do more than just rush for 100 or more yards.
I love it, man. I love it. You and I actually have taken the over passing plus rushing prop for Lamar a couple times this season because it does feel like, it feels like it's a little bit lower than it should be, and it has been. But when it comes to and by the way, it is crazy to see his passing yard totals. Like I think that would shock a lot of people to see that what is he averaging? Probably like 260 passing yards per game. It is impressive.
Yeah. And I'm seeing someone in chat say that Lamar barely beat the Lions. He wouldn't have been even close.
Marquis Brown
close in that game if Marquis Brown had actually remembered how to play football.
Yep. Dropped 3 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson's line would have been insane in that game. Insane.
I'm kind of glad it isn't because at least the ownership is around what it looks like it should be. And so if you want to be over or even at 100% Lamar Jackson, it isn't crazy. Whereas I wonder if he had gone off in that game and then had the Denver game last week, that it would just be like untenable how many people are playing it.
How much do you think, though, how viable do you think it is to go Lamar with 2 pass catchers? Because on a showdown slate, I have 0 problem with it.
Yeah, no problem. All the main slate general rules that we use are kind of out the window in these one game slates, especially with the Ravens, who are such an interesting schematic team. They're still number one in our game script adjusted rush rates tool, and even though the passing game has been stronger, remember that's on a per pass level. So uh, they are going to have to be efficient, but I still have no problem here. I could easily see a 2 touchdown game from one, and either Watkins or Marquis Brown having over 100 yards receiving.
James Taylor says, I hate the would have been argument. Yeah, I mean, I'm not huge on that either, to be like, yeah, I would have won a tournament and not finished in 100 if this guy just caught that touchdown. Well, sure, but the 98 people ahead of you that aren't in first place also have a would have, should have been situation. But in the case of Lamar Jackson, it's not unreal. It's not, there's no reason to look at that game and not say like, hey, listen, it's not unreasonable to be like, he would have had a bigger game. He didn't. That's fine. But Marquis Brown dropped a lot of touchdowns. That's all we're saying. That's all.
Well, that is the part of the passing game that is of no control to the quarterback. So if there is one part you're going to take away, it's the receiver's ability to catch or drop a pass. Love your music though, James Taylor.
And by the way, you want to talk about a brain fart? I just forgot the word unreasonable. I
That in itself, unreasonable.
That's not great. How much do you like Mark Andrews?
I mean, I really do. I was surprised, to be honest, to see how much he was popping in our tools today. But I can't deny, looking at right now, our top plays tool, 11% chance, actually almost 12% chance that he's the optimal captain tonight with the largest leverage score on the whole slate for DraftKings. That's undeniably interesting. Now, Andrews has been, again, part of this three-headed monster here, but with the Colts struggling in the secondary, it looks like our projections are showing that the underneath pass is going to be there tonight for Lamar Jackson.
All right. Well, Marquis Brown, you and I were discussing his receptions prop earlier, right? And I mean, it's 4.5 receptions. Is the under juiced on this? Yeah, a little bit. That seemed like a decent number, but I guess the biggest question for me isn't really what do you think he'll do, but do you think he's worth this price point? He's if you want to play Marquis Brown at captain on DraftKings, he's 16.5.
That's a ton. That's a ton. Here's what I'll say. Marquis Brown, just because of the style of player that he is, can have a huge ceiling game. But I still think, not to say that he hasn't, he played very well just last week, making up for that porous week 3 performance. But I still feel like the perception of him is based on that very first game that he played, where he absolutely blew the roof off the main slate. This year, I mean, it's been pretty solid. 17.5 fantasy points per game, 3 games over 19 fantasy points, and 3 games inside the top 20 wide receivers overall. So this is a player who's definitely turning into the receiver, the first round receiver that the Ravens wanted. But still, based on this offense and the passing volume, we've been talking about them being of high quality, but that is on a per pass basis. I'll keep saying it. Only 1 game so far where Marquis Brown has seen over 7 targets, even as the de facto wide receiver 1 in this offense.
I hear you, man. So, Rashad Bateman was supposed to be activated today. You would have been getting him at the dead min, right? Dead min, $200. Guy that they drafted 27th overall, obviously to correct some of those woes from last season, which really bit them when it came to late the season and the postseason. They couldn't hang against better defenses, but particularly against better offenses that can just pour points in. There's no doubt that Rashad Bateman was supposed to be at least a stopgap to get them where they need to go. But Matt, that won't be the case today. They are activating Miles Boykin, though. He's also minimum salary, but I mean, I don't really know how much there is there. What are we doing with all of these other? Oh, and there were some super chats that Jordan sent me. I will get to them. I didn't forget. What are we doing with all of the non-Watkins, Andrews, Brown pass catchers for Baltimore.
Yeah, you can play them. We've seen 2 red zone targets for each of Josh Oliver and Devin Duvernay. Obviously, the running backs are kind of where I'm looking if I'm kind of trying to get weird, because I know that there's going to be 3 of them playing today. But yeah, I mean, in our value rankings, Boykin is popping. Obviously, it's because his salary is so low and his fantasy points are, it's between 1 and 2 is his projection right now. But still, I think for a player in a 1-game slate who's going to be on the field, who a ton of people are just going to be completely overlooking in massive field tournaments, you could do worse. I do like Duvernay as the 4th if you're not looking at those big 3 Ravens receiver.
Okay. Jordan, you gonna put that on the screen? All right. Let me hit on a couple super chats, and then we'll get to the backfield. Matt, a lot of people asking about Tyson Williams. That is a big deal with Le'Veon Bell inactive for this one. There you go. So that would look that if Ben had a thicker mustache, it still I don't think would be there. Did you see it on the screen? Did you miss it?
I don't know. I don't know if I see it.
It's not there at all. It's just because they both wear glasses. But Ben wears like normal person glasses and has a normal person shave. So Ben, no, I don't see it. I would tell you if I did. I would tell you more if I did for sure, but I don't see it. Anyway, let me get to these real quick. Okay, here we go. Williams says, thank you for the super chat. The waiting beat is fire. Thank Jordan Klein for that. Also love the content. Talk to me about Hollywood and big play potential. We did, right? Like the target share is never going to be absurd. If you get 1 game with double-digit targets from Brown this year, you'll probably be happy, especially with Bateman coming back shortly. He does have the big play potential. Sorry, Matt, but
10th
I'm saying
in yards per reception, 12th in yards per target, 10th in yards per route run. That's big play potential right there.
Yep. He's doing it. He's doing it with efficiency, not with volume, but that's what you expect from him. So if you're playing Marquis Brown, you're going into it with the assumption or the hope that, you know what, hopefully he breaks off a couple big ones on his 5 to 7 targets. And you know what? I'm okay with that. He's just expensive.
Yeah, the only annoying part is the salary makes it difficult there, but I do think he does have a little bit of a name brand as a big play receiver, and you know the stats bear it out. So that doesn't mean we fade him; it just means that he's not going to be unpopular.
All right, so perfect segue here. Oh, actually, Charles says, "Hey guys, doing a DraftKings double up. I have Lamar as captain, wise, but I have 4K left for my last slot. I already have Tucker and Watkins. Who should my last player be?" So this is helpful doing a double up when you just like run an unadulterated optimal lineup on Fantasy Cruncher, just throwing it out there, right? To get a cash lineup. But where would you go here if you have 4K remaining? Because it's a dead spot for the most part.
He said he has Tucker already
and Sammy Watkins. Well, he's 5'8", so
okay. And if he's doing a double up, I'm okay playing Blankenship. The kickers are fine.
Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah,
you might just have
to go
to.
Blankenship.
Yeah, especially with this game potentially trending in that direction. It's either that or like Jack Doyle. So those are your 2 options. Good segue into the running back. John Jefferson with the super chat. Thanks, brother. Says, would you agree with the age of the Ravens backfield? They will use, I'm assuming you mean Tyson, as the feature back to give Murray an easy night. Leverage play, ? Well, Matt, you think Tyson Williams could actually get a decent amount of work today? Just to set the table, he was an inactive coach's decision last week with Le'Veon Bell active. Now Le'Veon Bell is inactive, and Tyson Williams should be back and active for tonight. He is.
Yeah, this comes down to what is the rationale of the coaching. This is an area where I don't believe, because we're just fans and we don't have access to these locker rooms, I don't believe we know the full information about why exactly Tyson Williams, who on an efficiency basis was the best running back on this team, was left inactive for week 4 as a healthy scratch. But the numbers bear out a player who, by all means, has been the best running back on this team. And when he did play, he had a pretty large role. I mean, I'm looking at a player who has an 11.1% breakaway run rate on Player Profiler. That's second among all running backs, 6.5 yards per touch. I'm saying he should get more touches. Now, our projections of him tonight are pretty solid, basically putting him in a timeshare. But I do see a situation where the Ravens kind of realize their mistake here, and he gets closer to his week 1 or week 2 opportunity share. Week 2, he saw 13 carries and had 2 targets, 15 opportunities from Tyson Williams. That could be slate winning tonight.
So we had someone just point this out in chat. And I actually think it's interesting. And I'm not even necessarily sure it's a narrative-based thing. So Braden Roth says, Tyson being featured tonight and then traded. Sleeper ? There have been reports circulating, Matt, that teams are inquiring about this Baltimore backfield. Now, far be it for me to reach here, but I don't think they're inquiring about Devonta Freeman and Le'Veon Bell.
I did not think about this until right now. I think they're right. I think
he's right. That's what I'm saying.
So
it's a great point.
I forget it was a Schefter tweet or a Rappaport tweet, maybe even both, where they sort of framed it as like well, we took in all these running backs, but still teams are calling us. But maybe they're calling about Williams. That makes some sense to me. Maybe they should just keep him.
I hear you, but I'm thinking like if you're a competitor, but you need some help in the backfield, would you rather have like Le'Veon Bell or Devonta Freeman, even Latavius Murray, or would you rather have a guy in Tyson Williams who actually might have some upside, and who actually might be a guy that you can keep on your team at low cost for a couple of years? To me, kind of makes sense.
I see it. I mean, I just told you about the advanced metrics looking really good on this guy. I mean, if you get a UDFA who can get that kind of breakaway speed, he saw 9% target share already. I'd like to see him evade more tackles. His juke rate is 6.3%. That's outside the top 50 running backs, but 5.6 true yards per carry. Again, that takes away from breakaway runs, so it doesn't just completely butcher that statistic. 5.6 is second among all running backs. It's
good.
Quality.
It's good. Now, I will say, Braden, I wouldn't necessarily call him a sleeper. He is actually getting the same ownership as Zach Pascal and some other players. Like he's up around 21%. So it's not like you're getting a virtually unowned Tyson Williams. At least that's not how we're projecting it. But
he's 1/8 the price of Pascal.
Oh, no, for sure. But I'm saying he's still not being, people aren't looking at this as, okay, Latavius Murray is going to get all the carries and Tyson Williams isn't. Like the ownership suggests that people expect Tyson Williams to at least get some opportunities. That's all I see it too.
Yeah, absolutely. But right now he's popping in our leverage score. There's only 3 players with a leverage percentage over 7%. Mark Andrews, who we talked about, Sammy Watkins, and Tyson Williams.
Man, if we get to 2,000 concurrent viewers, we got to get 500 likes. I mean, I think that's just standard here. There, we just hit it. Actually, we just cruised over. 2,000, 500 likes. It just sounds good. 25% ratio makes me happy. You're happy. We all win money tonight. We go home and I can look my family in the eye without shame. Matt, anything else for Baltimore when it comes to this team? And I will say Justin Tucker is the legit GOAT. So if anybody wants to play Justin Tucker tonight in what, who knows, could be a lower scoring game, I am all for it. The guy is extraordinarily good. And if you look at his fantasy totals week to week, he could drop a 17 to 20 fantasy point game. And you just kind of think, okay, makes sense.
Yeah, he's amazing. And I will say, again, kickers are usually just reserved for cash games, but there is a little bit of ceiling here with the Ravens kicker, particularly because it's Tucker and he's so good, but also when a team rushes this often, when their efficiency isn't quite what it used to be and then they get stalled out on third downs, that's when you have a situation where a favored team still ends up scoring or having plenty of scoring drives, but they end up in field goals, hence a bigger day for the kicker.
One more question, and quickly, are you rostering Baltimore defense?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before. I don't hate the Baltimore defense here. Playing the game script where Baltimore absolutely destroys them, but they don't necessarily have an offensive explosion is something that I know Baltimore would like to do here. I could easily see a pick 6 here.
Okay. Last one. Joey says, with Tyson being inexpensive, is it okay to play him and Murray together in tournaments, Matt?
In tournaments, sure. But you're really talking about the Ravens running back 2 and running back 3, because Lamar Jackson does have a significant rushing share built into the game plan. So it does get pretty thin there. Yes, you're going to differentiate yourself. So if you're in a super large field tournament, I don't hate it, but not my favorite.
Okay. So, Matt, we'll build a lineup, and then we're getting to that one. I really want to get to these two props we found over on Odd Shopper with the NFL, a little e-commerce action, shopping the best odds in literally the easiest way. It takes like 2 clicks to find the best possible bets on any given slate. So we really want to show you that. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's free. I truly think you'll love this, especially if you're just someone that wants good bets, and the numbers bear it out with all of the sharpest minds behind the scenes at Awesemo, aggregating all of this stuff and finding the best odds from every single. Let's just do it now real quick, Jordan. Flip it around, because I want to get to these so everyone can get them in, and then we'll build a lineup. I think that makes the most sense. So, Matt, you and I talked about this before the show. The coolest thing about this, and Jordan's going to put it on the screen. So if you go to oddshopper.com, you click shop NFL. The coolest part is at the top right, you can sort by expected win rate and expected ROI, which is huge when you're just saying, let me find the best bets on the board or the ones with the highest expected ROI.
It's tremendous. And make sure you check off player props. Once you click on shop NFL, you filter it and player props, because we have our projections built in to those player props. And almost like when you are able to get like an Expedia.com or Travelocity that gives you the best flight for your time that you're looking to go to, this does the same thing, shows you the best book in your state where you get the best odds for this bet. So I'm just thrilled looking at this too. I think we're going to stick with Pennsylvania, just so that we're on the same page, quite literally here, and talk about some of our favorites.
All right. So let's sort by expected win rate. And for those of you wondering why this stuff is so important, if you are doing anything else in life, you're always looking for the best deal. Like if you're shopping for a car, you're looking for the best deal, Matt. You're not going to go and find the exact same car and be like, I want to pay more because of convenience. Of course not. So in this instance, at the bottom of each prop, you'll see best bet. It doesn't seem like a lot, right? Maybe 15 cents on the dollar, 10 cents, but that adds up in a big way. It adds up. You're saving money long-term, but just the overall sustainability of betting when you're finding these props and these odds at the best price that you can get them at is exactly what we're looking for. So Matt, we found the one that we were talking about, kind of teasing throughout the show. Nyheim Hines over 2.5 receptions. Expected win rate is pretty high on this one as well. I love it.
Yeah, this one's super easy for me. Again, we talked about it where he's had 2 games of over 6 targets this year, a game of over 8 targets. Also, he's a returner, so you could get scores that way as well. But with this particular bet, I'm looking at an expected win rate of 75% based on his projection of almost double the over-under of 2.5 all day for Nyheim Hines, especially if they're coming from behind here and easily 3 or more catches.
Are we going Patrick Ricard under 1.5 receiving yards?
I think so. I mean, let's trust the math here. An expected win rate of 83%. That means we just need him to not touch it all game.
Or like 1 reception for 1 yard, which is doable for a guy at his position. So seriously, check this out, guys. Oddshopper.com. Go to shop NFL. It's entirely free. But I mean, when it comes to just finding the best odds on the best props across the betting sphere, I don't think you're going to find a more easily accessible way to do it than this. And it's just smooth. So go check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. Let's build a lineup, Matt. Do we want to start with Lamar at captain if we're doing a large field tournament, or do we want to try something different?
Let's just do a pass catcher, because that is very often where people go in a large field tournament, and then we'll stack however we see fit.
All right, let's go Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews. All right, and then we'll do Lamar in the lineup.
Of course. So
okay, now it gets interesting.
So we got Mark Andrews. Sorry, Jordan, I get you flying all over the place, but I'm assuming you're on lineup. Jordan's a fucking professional, man. Shout out your boy There goes the head shake. I knew it. Shout out your boy Jordan in chat. Just this guy pulling the all-nighters so he can make sure he's there at 5 a.m. to produce these Awesemo shows and make all of us happy. He doesn't like when we compliment him, Matt, but he deserves it.
He does deserve it. Jordan, thanks for sticking with us. We have enough salary here, and I think we can differentiate ourselves. Let's do it. Carson Wentz.
All right. So, all right, let's do it. Let's do it. Carson Wentz gives us around 5,800 per. We got 3 left. This can work. I mean, I could go Pittman here. Or do we want to go Zach Pascal? That's the one for me. I want one of these guys in the lineup. And I think, okay, here's what I'm going to do, Matt. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to let you decide, not this one, but the next one. I'm going Nyheim Hines.
Darn it, because that was me.
All right, great. Let's stick to our analysis, right? Like it is the type of game situation that should promote a big spot from Nyheim Hines.
Okay. Ooh. We definitely could play one of the kickers. No, let's do Tyson Williams. Let's go with that narrative that we were talking about, where he is the best running back in their backfield, and he deserves to get more touches.
We're 500 short of Marquis Brown. All right. So I think we go Pittman and we leave 1,500 on the table.
I see it.
I like this lineup.
It's kind of nice. You can fit what? You could fit like Taylor in there, could you?
Could
with Hines. It's a good exercise because you have some optionality here.
For sure. Yes, to answer your question, you can fit Taylor, but I kind of like the passing narrative here a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate it.
Like Hines and Pittman were the ones that caught the touchdowns.
Yeah,
and you needed Wentz otherwise.
And hey, if Tyson Williams is on the field, don't forget, like, he has been the only running back to really get any significant amount of targets when he's on the field, when he's active, right? I think Bell has like 1 target or something. So I dig this, Matt. I like it.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, his maximum targets so far this year for Williams has been 4, but I'll take 4 targets. That sounds great.
All right. Well, let's where are we at? Reading some comments, seeing if we got any good comments. Yeah, Josh, Tyson Williams is active. Any good comments before we go? No, come on, make me 500 likes though. Let's go. Appreciate you. Oh, and a $20 super chat from Sneakerologist. Man, this lineup is looking familiar. Love the show, guys. Thanks, man. Appreciate the super chat. Matt, I was going to do top props, but I think we already hit on a couple that we really like tonight.
Yeah, didn't we hit those props when we were showing off our new Odd Shopper tool? Guys, also, the other thing is our projections are kind of baked in there. So if that tool is free right now, you're essentially seeing a bunch of the Awesemo projections just in a different format on a player-by-player basis.
No doubt, man. All right, Matt, can't let you off the hook quite yet. I'm not asking you to say that you're recommending a side or a total bet here, but give me your final score prediction because this is fun. And chat, spam it right now. Give me your final score prediction for this game. Jordan is going to keep them all, and he's going to – I'm just joking. Jordan, his eyes lit up. Jordan's going to keep track of all of these. Final score prediction for tonight's game, Matt. What do you got?
28-21. It's not as close as that says, but 28-21 is your final score. Ravens win.
Okay, 28-21 Ravens. I'm going. You know, the other day when we did this last week, I joked about a score and ended up being spot. Who played last Monday? Oh, I joked just to see your eyes light up when you think I was crazy. And I took the road team to smoke I forget what it was. They were big. They won.
Raiders and Chargers. Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Uh-huh.
I feel like it was something. I don't know. Maybe it was. But anyway, I'm going 27-17. Baltimore Ravens get the dub, cover. And that would be what? 27-17. We'd be coming under that 46.5 point total. So Matt Savoca at Draftaholic. Good stuff as always, brother. and Jordan Klein with a K, of course. Thanks as always for producing, brother. We love you here. And we love all you guys hanging out with us every day. Thank you for crushing the 500 likes. If you haven't subscribed yet, do so. Follow me at Laffy_D on Twitter, LOUGHY_D. And stick around, Eric Lindquist, Matt Gajeski taking you up to lock. Peace.
See ya.
There it is.
change is staying the same. Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the second edition here. Guys did a great job on the first show. Hit that like button for them, of course. But this is NFL Live Before Lock, presented by Prize Picks. I'm Eric Lindquist. I'm here with another special guest. You guys know him. He's the Showdown King. He helps you win all of the money over on the DraftKings, over on the FanDuel, over on the Yahoo, and Prize Picks. He's a master college football extraordinaire, but covering the NFL today because he's pretty good at that too. Matt Gajeski. That's Matt_Gajeski on the Twitter sphere. How you doing, my dude?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
I'm okay. I mean, I'm just hyper, like always, just overly caffeinated, ready to go. How's your day so far? I wanted small talk. I'm going to make you small talk because you showed up in our little room and you were just, I don't know. I feel like there's a strange vibe. Are you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Excited for the game tonight. Sometimes when you're quiet, you're just working on these lineups.
Okay. I'm going to trust that. I'm going to trust the process, which I guess Ben Simmons might now be going back to the 76ers. I have no idea what's going on. NBA coming back next week. Oh my God, I cannot wait. Can you wait, Matt Gajeski?
I'm going to the Bucks first game.
Well, aren't you special? That's not so bad. I mean, I picked them to win the title last year on the first episode of the Slate Starter, which as of today officially got the green light. If you guys like the Slate Starter that I do with Rinpack, it's coming back for the NBA season 2021-22 edition. Very excited about that. I hope some of you guys are as well. Looking forward to that. But of course, you guys are here to talk NFL. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That is good stuff for you. Yes, put the counter up. Good times. I said good stuff, though. That's different. All right, let's go to the quarterback position. Let's put Matt Gajeski to work. Maybe that'll cheer him up a little bit. That's kind of what I'm looking for. We have, who is it? Oh, yeah, Lamar Jackson. He's pretty good at football. Talk to me about him.
Yeah, he's extremely good at football. And he's coming in with a ton of ownership tonight, even at an enormous price tag. And I think that's still probably warranted. And it honestly, even at what is combined 88, nearly 89% owned and just 35 in the captain, 34.5. I still think there's the argument to be made that that's probably not enough on a slate where there's not a ton of other options that really just have the upside that Lamar Jackson has. And then you have Carson Wentz kind of in a price tier a little bit below. It's kind of rare where you don't see the QBs 1, 2 in price. So Wentz, I think, even as the second most owned player, it's kind of the same deal with him. And I actually don't mind getting to Wentz in the captain spot, but I know we'll dive into this a little further. What were your first thoughts with Lamar Jackson?
Play him a lot. I'm not going to have a single lineup without him tonight. So, hashtag analysis, hashtag good times. But I love Lamar Jackson just as a football player. He's always been one of my favorite guys to watch. Going back to his Louisville days, I mean, he was doing stuff that you just hadn't seen. Like, people talk about dual threat quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is like he's a dual threat quarterback on crack. He does everything well. He reads defense as well, too. I feel like he gets a little bit shorthanded. This playoff narrative about him, you play both sides of the ball. You have to kind of, obviously, at the quarterback position, excel. It's the most important position on the field, but the guy does everything well. And now he's throwing the ball further downfield. Malcolm Brown, going through some of his numbers on the season, just his depth of reception. I mean, 17 plus yards now per reception on the season, up from 12 and 13. I absolutely love this guy. And then Lamar Jackson just continually getting it done with his legs. That's what we're really excited about. That's what makes him so consistent from a fantasy aspect, because you get 0.1 points per yard on the old DraftKings and FanDuel.com. So I just see 6.6 yards per attempt. That's stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, he's excelling a lot as a passer, more so than in years past. His yards per attempt is way up this year. And everything you look at, like completion percentage, is still pretty much in line with where it's been, just a little bit lower. It's right around his career average still. And Lamar Jackson just averaging so much as a passer as well. It is fantastic. Can you hear that in the background?
Yeah, I did, but I apparently said Malcolm Brown, so I'm now getting eviscerated by the world. Go ahead.
It's my
Marquis
neighbor.
Brown. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead, say something about this for a second.
Okay, you get out of here. Please leave the premises. I don't care. I love Carson Wentz as well for Showdown, specifically on FanDuel and Yahoo. He always makes sense at the quarterback position to be playing guys who have such elevated floors, and Carson Wentz is no exception. He's going to have a ton of ownership. He should have a ton of ownership at that spot. 14K is kind of a weird number on FanDuel. I think you can maybe get away from that more than Yahoo, where he's at $22 as opposed to $25 for Jonathan Taylor. Those should be flip-flop, but that's just me. That's just one man's opinion. Quarterbacks on every single Showdown slate. I don't know what to say because you should always play them, but Lamar Jackson is a special kind of something that you just need to have a ton of. Oh, good. Oh, somebody's getting scolded. Somebody's getting scolded. What just happened?
Nothing. It's my neighbor that's doing work on his apartment at 6:45 p.m. after business hours. It's my landlord that sent him over here. So there's no mercy from me.
It's Pope again. Don't put it out with your boots, Dad. Do you know what that's from?
No, sorry. All right. Anyway, I can talk again.
Don't tell me my business, devil woman. Call the fire department. This one's out of control.
All right. What's up? Sorry, guys.
Billy Madison, but we're fine. We're going to continue on. Quarterbacks, play them a lot. Hashtag analysis. To the running back position we go. I think this is kind of the make or break spot on this slate because we got a guy named Tyson Williams. My God, why can I not say people's names today? I'm saying Malcolm Brown, who's a made up fictional person on the Ravens. And now, we're going to go Tyson Williams here. He's $1,200. If you want to build some lineups, and I mean, I can't remember looking at my lineups, 4,900, 2,300, 3,500. I am leaving a ton of salary on the table, and all three I just read off have Lamar Jackson in the captain spot, because if Tyson Williams ends up getting some volume for this team, over on our NFL advanced stats, game script adjusted rush percentage, which I love referring to, 52.4% implied percentage that we are looking at for this game. Baltimore, they run at the highest rate in the league. They just kind of do it differently. But do you think that this is going to be a Tyson Williams spot where he could over exceed what we project him for?
I've been looking at his projection really closely and trying to decipher who is going to get the work in addition to Latavius Murray. And I still think it's really hard to decipher that. Tyson Williams, obviously a guy they had faith in coming out of the preseason, but then just a couple errors got him healthy scratched for, Le'Veon Bell at times, Devontae Freeman, someone who's still playing just a couple snaps there. So I do think there's a little bit of risk with Tyson Williams, of course, after just being a healthy scratch. But at the same time, Devontae Freeman's a guy that's only played a couple snaps. And really what you're looking at out of Tyson Williams as a pure punt play is hopefully like 5 to 10 carries, maybe a target here or there. I know they don't do that a lot in Baltimore. But at his price tag, he doesn't have to get that much in order to pay off his salary. And you kind of need to think about him in conjunction with the Lamar Jacksons and the other studs you're actually getting at the top too. Whereas if you play somebody like Latavius Murray, you're going to have to take that middling build and play other studs right in the middle. So I do like Tyson Williams, not just for the potential upside, but kind of what he allows you to grab in your lineup.
Yeah, sorry to start on the bottom of the board. I just think it makes sense because coming off of an inactive, a healthy scratch, it just kind of surprised me. And I thought it needed to be addressed right from the get-go as you're building lineups in these large field with 150,000 plus entries over on DK, on FanDuel, massive amount of entries where you see overlap, even without Lamar Jackson in the captain spot or in the, the MVP spot specifically. And then on Yahoo, it's so hard to get away from Lamar Jackson up there. But in the event that a guy like Tyson Williams ends up getting more carries, it's just, he's the slate breaker where you could leave a ton of salary on the table and end up optimal. Let's talk about some more established plays, or just better plays, should I say. Jonathan Taylor, Latavius Murray, Nyheim Hines, all three really stick out. All are going to be owned considerably on this slate. Do you kind of have a partial build that you're going towards one or the other?
I think Jonathan Taylor, for just raw upside, the Colts have shown a willingness to run the ball a lot, especially in positive game script. That's not what Vegas bookmakers are projecting tonight, but we always build our tournament lineups with certain game script scenarios in mind. And I think in GPPs, that's one you can certainly look at with Jonathan Taylor. I actually like how much he's been involved as a receiver too. He's never going to have like an Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey workload just because of the presence of Nyheim Hines. But the fact that he has received targets this year, I do think is positive for him and just his overall well-rounded game. So Jonathan Taylor is the preference to me. I know it's not just a 1-for-1 price comparison between the two, but I would rather take him in my lineups. There's just less risk, in my opinion.
Everybody in the chat is very invested in your neighbor right now. I tell you what, Jordan Klein's like, it's not
actually. So my neighbor moved. It's my landlord trying to do maintenance. He's been here all day and it's like going on 12 hours. And now we're talking about nearly 7 o'clock Central Time. Just like, I thought it would be done by now, and it's unacceptable.
Can we get a poll going in Awesemo here? Let us know what time it's acceptable to do some apartment work. What time the cutoff time needs to be. Is it 4 o'clock? Is it 5 o'clock? Is it 6 o'clock? If you're out mowing your lawn after 7 o'clock, you need to just like never speak to me again, something like that. So I understand those kind of things, but let me know when the apartment cleaning / drilling / whatever, hammering, whatever's going on over there, what time it needs to stop at. Because Matt is lit over there. He was lit before the show.
They stopped, man. So now I'm good.
Okay, good. You let him know what's up. Okay, let's kind of round this out. Nyheim Hines was a talk of conversation on the last show, a guy that got paid in the offseason, but is never really going to ever see any kind of the rushing volume that you would expect out of a guy who just got paid. 9 is the most carries he's had on the season. He's had 6, he's had 2, he's had 1. Those are pretty low numbers, but the targets, the receptions, all of that can exist there. We've seen some massive upside from him in the past. I remember week 1, he won a lot of people tournaments against Jacksonville in 2020. Is it going to be one of those kind of nights in a game script you got to expect they're coming from behind?
So he's a dynamic player. People don't want to play him because he's in the timeshare, but this guy's rattled off big plays throughout his career. And I believe he scored like on a 9-yard run in the red zone. He's not really their goal line back, but he will get a lot of usage in the red zone and, of course, in the pass game. So Nyheim Hines, I think, is a little bit game script dependent. He's going to be their guy they use in more up-tempo when they're playing from behind. Taylor is still involved in the pass game, but Nyheim Hines does play that clear role. And in a game script tonight where you have Baltimore projected to win this game by 7.5 points, 7 points, depending on your book, it's a spot where he should see some work in the pass game. He's just a little expensive for my likings. Really the only thing I'll say about that.
All right, I got to roast somebody in the chat quick. Here we go. Hold, please. There we are. Done. Everybody enjoy that one. All right. We're going to continue ourselves on. Do you have anything else from the running back position? Can you take any kind of shots on Devonta Freeman, Patrick Ricard? God forbid. I mean, that would just be really, really hurtful. Marlon Mack. I heard his name once upon a time. I don't want to ever think about it again. But is there anybody else that you're remotely getting to in some of these large field tournaments?
Marlon Mack played a decent amount of snaps. I don't think they were the most meaningful snaps. I'm not playing Patrick Ricard, the fullback. Devonta Freeman's an interesting pivot off of Tyson Williams. Devonta Freeman was active over him last game. So right now, I think with the Devonta Freeman, Tyson Williams, we're all speculating at what their roles are going to be. They don't use a single lead back in Baltimore, so someone is going to see work. I think you just hope that it's not split right down the middle, and you can pick one of them in the 2 lineups, 3 lineups, whatever you're running. If it's multiple lineups, you're already playing both, I would assume. So it's a situation where I don't really want to take a stand between them, and I do want to play some of them both.
Love it. That's the running back position, everybody. We've got plenty of time. We're making great time. We're going to talk a lot about wide receivers, tight ends, all the nice things. But I also have to talk to you about Awesemo Plus tools and content. $29.95 gets you all of it for a week. Full access to everything we have behind the paywall, player projections, ownership projections, premium Slack channel, which is lit all the time, especially on betting weekends with me. I get excited, lineup builder, and so much more. Awesemo Plus Platinum. If you want to check it out, NFL Showdown LBL, all caps, one word. It's on the screen. That makes it easy. Copy, paste. Well, I guess you can't click on the screen. That's unfortunate. But NFL Showdown, LBL, all caps, one word, gets you 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And if you want to just check out NFL DFS, $3.95 for the week. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Yes, you need to be looking at that. And we also have a great promotion going with Yahoo. Always check that out as well. But this is a Prize Picks show. We're going to keep it to Prize Picks because they are the lovely sponsor here. We'll talk about them here next. But we got to jump over to the wide receiver position. We have, of course, on the top end, Marquis. I'm so like checking my brain right now because it wants to say Malcolm. Marquis Brown, 11,000 over on DK. On FanDuel, a little bit more cost prohibitive, but he has proven to be the number one. I had already talked about how his receptions or his yards per reception is way up this season, getting a lot of deep balls. If he didn't have just, I don't know, grease on his hands against the Lions, we'd be talking about a guy who's coming off of 4 straight massive weeks and just outperforming expectations based on what we had seen over the last 2 years. What do you see from Marquis Brown tonight?
Yeah, I love Marquis Brown. He's a little bit expensive in the context of this particular slate because we have to make such difficult decisions near the bottom of pricing. There's not that clear value salary saving option that lets you jam in all the studs. So you do have to decide between Marquis Brown and whoever it may be at the top, whether it's Wentz or another stud, maybe the Jonathan Taylor, something like that. And ultimately with Marquis Brown, it comes down to his target share is not too dissimilar from Mark Andrews, Sammy Watkins, who are at cheaper prices. And even if you want to look at that role, the downfield role he has been seeing, his 32% air yard share is only 4% ahead of Sammy Watkins, who has almost identical targets to him. Now, Sammy Watkins, of course, he's not going to be the name everyone wants to click on, but he's really not that much further ahead of Watkins and Andrews than the numbers might indicate. I know the memories are kind of shrouded by those 3 touchdowns he did drop, but opportunity has been pretty consistent for those 3.
Sammy Watkins is sadness and broken dreams. I don't know how else to describe Sammy Watkins.
I've played a lot of Sammy Watkins in my life, and I've lost a lot of money on him.
I've never been. Has anybody played Sammy Watkins and been happy about it? I'm going to go through this box score for 1 second. Oh yeah,
only like week one and week last 3. Year.
Yeah, that's what it was, dude. Everybody, Nyheim Hines with the run back of Sammy Watkins in this game. Let's run back week 1, 2020 when Sammy Watkins didn't play for Baltimore, or did he? I can't remember. He was with Kansas City, right?
Yeah, it is one big game, and then he was done for the year with production.
And everybody traded for him after the first week. He's going to be wide receiver 2. That didn't happen.
He's playing a lot. He's seeing a lot of targets, and his air yards are similar to Marquis Brown. He's just obviously hasn't been as productive, but that's reflected in price too.
Right. So is there something where you could, like, if you had a really chalky build that was nearly zeroed out, you could just swap out Brown for Watkins?
So you're saying like leave that much salary on the table?
Yes.
You could do that. I think you would need to be in a large field tournament for sure. Anything low risk, definitely don't do that. But like Millie Maker style tournaments, as long as it's not like, I don't know, 7K plus you're leaving on the table because you can use that towards something, I'm okay with it, I think.
All right. Well, we're here on the Baltimore side of the field, so we might as well stick there. We have, should I just incorporate tight ends together? Do we just want to go strict pass catchers in this section? What do you want to do?
Probably because Mark Andrews is just so involved.
Yeah, I think it also helps to compare him as far as what you're looking at. I mean, on DraftKings, he's 6,600. As you look at the flex ownership of this entire team, I mean, Mark Andrews is a guy that I just think might even end up with higher ownership than what we're predicting him for. He's the second most owned guy over on DK. And if you want to check out the top showdown and single game plays today for DraftKings and FanDuel, it's completely free. You go to the NFL tab on the Awesemo.com page. You go down, you scroll down to Showdown, where it has specifically saying Showdown, and you can see what we're looking at on the screen right now. Jordan Klein, producer extraordinaire, best producer in the game, named Jordan Klein, bar none. But looking at the top percentage here, Mark Andrews, 4.7% of the time he ends up there. Oh, he just moved it. There it went. 11.8% captain optimal ownership. I mean, that's a large number. That's the second largest that we're looking at. 9.1% leverage that we're looking at with Mark Andrews. I mean, is it something where we should be going way more to him, especially at that price?
I like Mark Andrews a lot because he's that one player that evens out your builds, and he's somebody that you can get in at a reasonable price that plays a full-time role. He's not one of the pure punt plays. And even in this mid-price range, you're dealing with a lot of players like Paris Campbell, Mo Alley Cox, and they don't play full-time roles in their offense, whereas Mark Andrews clearly does.
Oh, Logo just said you'd rather play Duvernay. We'd rather play Devin Duvernay. Isn't that Texas? Didn't he go to Texas?
Yeah, he did.
Okay, I just remember him at Texas actually being good, because in the NFL, he's not. Devin Duvernay, though, any interest in him on this slate?
In big GPPs, I think you can do it. He's going to be a part-time player no matter what. Baltimore runs two running backs at one of the highest rates in football, and that's just because of their usage of Patrick Ricard. And he's kind of like a hollow roster spot for them. He plays a very clear role, but it's not fantasy relevant whatsoever, which takes off Duvernay. Now, they also run 12 personnel a decent amount too, which brings Duvernay off the field as well. Duvernay is a pure 11 personnel type receiver when they are in three wide sets. It gives him a really low floor, and I think his ceiling is questionable as well. At his price, he's tournament strict option for me. Not going to play him in cash or any low risk contest.
Well, you said a lot of 12 personnel. Who could be the other tight end that we're looking at from the Baltimore side? It looks like Josh Oliver and Eric Tomlinson. Any interest in either of those cats? Because again, no stone is going to be left unturned here.
Josh Oliver is a pass catching tight end specifically. He's not on the field a lot though, which is the problem. Even on the other side, the Indy side, their tight ends are a lot more involved. The one thing you can fall back on with Oliver is he plays a very specific role. So when he's out there, he is going to be running routes, catching the ball. Tomlinson is the exact opposite. When he's out there, he's essentially a blocker.
All right. Well, that's some great analysis to have, because if you guys listened to Thursday's show, where we literally built a lineup that ended up getting a Millie ticket for the contest with Neil Orfield, the man from Minnesota. I like my Minnesota brethren here. He ended up taking that one down with the 4-man contest. And he was just talking about his other exposures for lineups. And he was just way over the field on some of these low opportunity guys that were just going to possibly, if they get that one catch, and that's kind of what you're looking for in Showdown. So I kind of like being able to know that there's some differentiation between those two tight ends. Josh Oliver, I'm going to add a little bit more, give him the double thumbs up here, and then cap him just so that I get to a little bit, because I had 0 before you just said that. Looking at Jack Doyle, Mo Alley Cox. Everybody wants to play Mo Alley Cox here, coming off of 2 touchdowns. Do you have any kind of a lean between one or the other? Because Mo Alley has such an indistinguishable difference in the projection, but somehow we have Jack Doyle projected more. I would be surprised by that.
I would be surprised by that too. Mo Alley Cox, he's seeing his involvement rise week over week too. He's very clearly like a strong route runner, a hyper athlete for this team too. Jack Doyle is a reliable player. He blocks a lot. And when he's out there, he doesn't run quite as many routes, at least of late. So that's a situation where I do prefer Mo Alley Cox in a vacuum as well. But of course, that's not reflected in price either, where you have Mo Alley Cox actually quite a bit more expensive than Jack Doyle right now. And I kind of even want to throw Kylan Granson in there. Their rookie tight end out of SMU, who is similar to Josh Oliver in that he's mainly a pass catcher. He's an undersized sort of like big slot receiver. And his snap share is actually pretty decent for this Indianapolis team. but they're again going to use 12 personnel on a ton of dropbacks tonight, especially with the players that they have in Mo Alley Cox and Kylan Granson.
All right. Somebody just said, who's the guy that they just said at 1K? Can we talk? It was all in caps. So do I have to yell it? Do you want me to yell like your neighbor or no? Okay.
No, they're using like
James?
power tools, man. They're not even screaming.
Can we talk James Proche at 1K?
We should talk James Proche.
Why?
Because he's on the field. And there's not.
That's the answer.
Honestly, that is the best answer I have for James Proche. Okay. But depends on the week. His snap share fluctuates a little bit. Last week, he was actually on the field for 33% of snaps, which isn't half bad. Very involved too on that. 6 targets. That is not going to be his role every single week. But if you're playing GPPs, again, I think taking stabs on these dart throws that are really, really cheap makes some sense. I don't know which one of them is going to hit or if it's any of them, but if you're playing multiple lineups, I do think you want some access points down here in the really cheap range. Because they're all splitting time, we don't know who to pick, but there is a chance one of them catches a touchdown or has that big play. That is the avenue to the Lamar Jackson stars and scrubs lineup hitting.
Somebody just said, I think about this all the time. Can we talk about some multi-chop FD lineups, please? No, we're not going to talk about that because that's basically all FD lineups are. No offense to them. Love playing over there. Been pretty good year over there. I
love playing cash there for a FanDuel showdown.
Ooh, who are you MVPing?
Lamar.
That was a joke. That was
Lamar.
Joke.
MVP okay. Lamar, please, people. If you're playing cash, please MVP Lamar.
MVP him everywhere on every site from now until eternity. Anytime he's in a game, even if he's 25K, I don't care. I'm going to find a way to play him. That's probably not true at 25K, but anything else, I guess the one guy we haven't talked about, Miles Boykin. What do you think this guy's role is?
So he's interesting to talk about because he's been a player that's seen a significant snap share for them in the past. He's also a big special teams guy. So I think you have to go into this thinking that he's going to be on the field for special teams, and then whatever he gives you as a wide receiver is a bonus. So for DFS, that's not exactly something that we can bank on. And the one thing I'll say about his involvement tonight, they've basically been trying to replace him for years now. They draft Marquis Brown in the first round. They draft Rashad Bateman in the first round, not active tonight. But I think those decisions kind of show you what they think of Miles Boykin. They draft these late receivers like Duvernay, like Proche. They take stabs on Sammy Watkins in free agency. And I don't think they're going to stop using 21 personnel with a fullback, 12 personnel with the 2 tight ends. So he's just squeezed for snaps and targets on so many angles, not to mention coming off the injury. Really tough for me to trust him outside of dart throws in massive tournaments.
I am right there with you. It would have to be, I'd have to get pretty far down the list. I mean, I'm probably not going to be going there because I think just name recognition actually exists a little bit there for him. It just feels like it's going to be a little bit inflated on him as opposed to, I think I would much rather just take the shot on Proche. I know that sounds disgusting, but under 2%, give me James Proche.
I agree with that.
Okay. I love that you agree with that. That's not even what I expected to hear. So I'm very happy about it. Also happy to talk prize picks here because that's an important part of our show. They are our sponsor. I think that there's some very advantageous props over there. If you have the opportunity to go check it out, daily prop-based contests, use the promo code Awesemo, $100 first match deposit bonus for it. There's no sharks. There's no optimizers. There's no mass entries. There's no Steve Buzzard. There's no Alex Baker. There's none of these guys who are going to wreck in these contests going forward. I just love having the opportunity to use our player props tool, use our projected stats page, and kind of make informed decisions every single time. And if you guys have other sports that you're interested in, NBA's coming back here soon. They have JLA. Is that how you say it? JLI? I just know that it's the one where you whip the ball really fast against the wall and it's awesome. Cricket, which goes on forever. They have that. If you're an expert in that, what? It's Jai-Alai. Jai-Alai. Why are you so upset with me? Jordan Klein's so mad at me right now. He's never, ever interrupted a read in my entire life until that moment. It's absurd. All right.
He's
NHL,
a big highlight fan.
He's a big highlight fan. We have to get that right now. Tennis, college football, which you just do a great job with every Saturday. Also, Betting You. Check that out. The podcast you do with Ben Rasa. Give them a like, give them a subscribe over on wherever you get your podcast from. But I want to talk some rushing yards. This feels like a game script here, obviously from the Ravens side, but even with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines, I think there's some interesting lines that exist over on Prize Picks. I'm going to run a couple by you here. First guy, He's the biggest name on the board. Lamar Jackson, 66.5 rushing yards. Over or under that for you?
I would go I would go over on that.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
where would you be?
I think I would slightly go over, but I think it's just a complete stay away. It's probably the most efficient out of all the numbers. And the reason I brought him up first is because I think the guy that I like the most, Latavius Murray, coming up in our projected stats page, 67 rushing yards, 67.4 rushing yards, over on Prize Picks here. Where did he just go? He just disappeared. Oh, there he is, 54.5 rushing yards. How do you feel about that?
That one's fantastic.
You should definitely be clicking that. That's my favorite one that exists on the board. Next to my second favorite on the board, we have Nyheim Hines, 14.5 rushing yards. How do you feel about that?
That one was my personal favorite heading into tonight.
Okay. You like the over on that?
Yes.
I do too. I know he hasn't seen much rushing volume, but I got to think he's going to be out on the field. Even in negative game scripts here, it just feels like a spot where I want to take some shots on him to see more than 14.5 rushing yards. It's not a lot. He played 50% of the snaps 2 weeks ago. If we get back to something close to that, we could be looking at an easy winner with the Latavius Murray, Nyheim Hines combo. I love the over on both, and I think you guys should too. Head over to Prize Picks. You basically just 2, 3, 4, 5 picks together, and you can net up to 10x your entry fee. It's a lot of fun. It's one of the best well-designed sites. They're starting to commercial all over the place because it is picking up steam. So you want to get over there now. Use promo code Awesemo, and thank you so much to them for supporting this show, for supporting Awesemo. Really enjoy their product. All righty, my guy. We have everybody's favorite section, kickers, defense. Let's lump them together. Let's start with the kickers, though. Justin Tucker is pretty good at kicking footballs. Same way Lamar Jackson is pretty good at running a football. Rodrigo Blankenship / Ben Rasa, Dr. Ben, plays football on Mondays now. That's fun. It's very true. Dude, that picture, that side-by-side is outrageous. I could kind of see it in my mind, and then Jordan Klein just threw the hammer down on that one. That was undeniable. It was incredible. But which kicker? I mean, you're going to be playing a lot of kickers here on this slate?
Yeah, they're really good plays in cash because we don't have a lot of strong pure value options. So I think looking at both kickers is wise. Picking at least one of them in your low risk contest makes a lot of sense.
That's all.
Preference towards Tucker, of course. I mean, like, the dude's a monster. That kick
the best kicker of
year.
all time. You like him. That is shocking.
I know, right? Like it's what they pay me the big bucks for.
Yeah. I see that. That was very
Rodrigo's
helpful.
a good kicker too, though. I'm completely fine getting to Rodrigo. If you can't find the 400 in salary for whatever reason, I'm completely fine with him.
Rafael Devers bomb. Go Red Sox. I'm excited about that. Just simply because the building was out of control yesterday. What a fun game. What a fun walk-off by Vasquez. Just a lowly Twins fan trying to connect to something in the world. But let's go to the defense then. Defense, not usually my favorite. I love playing kickers. I always think that they're a little underrepresented, but it feels like the field's starting to pick up on it. Justin Tucker, I don't think anybody's going to be sneaky playing Justin Tucker, but Ravens and Colts defense, both of those kind of stick out to me. Over on Yahoo, it's interesting because the Colts are actually more expensive than the Ravens, which makes them perhaps like the lowest owned tournament play you can click on over there. But on DK, where most people here are chatting about 4,400 for the Ravens, 3,200 for the Colts. Do you get a little bit of them on this slate?
Yeah, for sure. And they're coming in with less ownership than the kickers. I think that's right, and they should. But they have clear paths to upside as well. And unlike kickers and both kickers for that matter, there is the ability to get large splash plays with your defense. I think this probably is a bigger probability with the Ravens just because they're projected to play with positive game script. The Colts offensive line is absolutely decimated right now. And Carson Wentz, I don't think his 2 sprained ankles healed in 2 weeks. So there's just a lot of ways the Ravens could potentially get there. With that said, we see games go awry all the time. We've seen the Ravens be in a couple games this year, like nearly losing to the Lions, losing to the Raiders. Those were both games they were pretty decent favorites. And so it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility that Indianapolis defense could do the same thing. And at lower ownership, they should certainly be in play. I don't really force defenses or take large stands on them in tournaments, but when they appear in my lineups, I don't actively try to remove them either.
I was shocked because I just think of the Colts being terrible, but shocked. They have 3 picks, 5 fumble recoveries, 8 sacks on the season already. They've put up some decent scores I don't know, 8, 9, 10 points, even if Baltimore gets to 21 isn't completely out of the question. I don't know. Just in interest of trying to get different on this slate, I think the Colts defense at 3,200 fits into some builds that are closer to 0 that I might want to go to. I don't know if I'd want to leave, 3-4K on the table for guys that didn't have the upside of it. You'd need a pick 6. You'd need some really interesting things to happen, but looks like that defense has kind of been getting after it this season.
Yeah, they've been good. And the one worry I have against the Ravens being such a run heavy team is you don't necessarily have a lot of those chances for like strip sack fumbles or interceptions. And that's just a neutral game script. If the Ravens get up in this game, which bookmakers are projecting, I think you see that run rate rise even higher. And it just really limits your opportunities for some of those big splash plays that win tournaments. But again, we're splitting hairs.
All right. Everybody start loading your questions into Premium Slack, but I almost never do season-long questions on this every time I see them, but this one's kind of interesting to me because I think it's pretty obvious and you should play Latavius Murray, but I wanted to ask you, season-long question from Al Butt. There you go. Cool. Need 10 points tonight, Pascal or Latavius Murray?
I would go Latavius Murray.
I would too. And yeah, there you go. Best of luck to you in that one. 10 points. I just get in the box. He's going to be getting some goal line carries in some of these spots. So enjoy that. Best of luck to you in that one. But everybody load up those questions in the Premium Slack. We'll get to those. 5 minutes of fury. I need to find some kind of alliteration with Gajewski, like Jetski, Gajewski. I think that kind of rhymes or sounds similar. We got to find some kind of a plug for this last 5 minutes of terror that we go on. We have 7 minutes exactly till lock. 7 minutes of heaven. That's kind of not something I should say, but we have so many options for what alliteration needs to be. We got to find some kind of a name for this, but either way, we're going to get to your questions here immediately. If producer Jordan wants to get some music going, kind of set the tone for me, he knows how I like it. That's also never going to get said again. Swanson 79 in the Premium Slack. We have both kickers in a lineup for cash. Okay on DK.
Yep.
Favorite non-QB captain. That is awesome, yo. So favorite non-QB captain, basically your favorite captain today.
Mark Andrews.
Ooh.
For non-QB, Mark Andrews. Otherwise it's easily Lamar.
Yeah. And I am playing, 4 in the milli. I've got 150. I've got on FanDuel, a number of lineups, everything else. Lamar Jackson's going to be basically my captain in almost all of them. Mark Andrews, Malcolm Brown. I kind of like all of that. Again, where did that Premium Slack here go? All right. I see some stuff here in the YouTube. We'll get to the YouTube here right now. We have, give us more prize picks. I would love to give you more prize picks. Do you have one prize pick? Do you have a prop that really stuck out to you that I didn't touch on? Because I kind of forced you to just talk about rushing yards.
No, those were my favorite. Honestly, I don't take like 10 of them myself. I just look for the biggest discrepancies and parlay those together. So I think we hit on the 2 best ones. And my favorite is Nyheim Hines.
Is this 6.5 reception yards prop for Hollywood Brown a mistake on NHA? No, you just played the under.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Hundley is going to make me so much money tonight. No, he's not.
No, he's not.
I put 2 kickers in one of my lineups. Thumbs up. Congratulations on that. Keep it going, guys.
I would not do that in tournaments. That is a cash game thing, low risk contest thing tonight because we don't have punts.
All right. One lineup in the milli, Hines at captain, question mark.
Go for it.
Congratulations. Wentz, Tyson, or Hines, Watkins to Matt? He didn't even care about me. He just said your name.
What? Was that a 2v2?
It's not. Wentz, Tyson, or Hines, Watkins, Matt?
Wentz, Tyson.
Okay, cool. You guys build a couple lineups. We're not going to do that. Ty Hilton, 2 kickers, both defense, leveling Bell as captain. That seems like a bad idea because you shouldn't do that. Let's see. I'm chopped liver, apparently. No, you're not, Niners. I didn't see your question. Mark Andrews or Latavius Murray? Found it.
Mark Andrews.
Cool. Let's see. Favorite wide receiver captain?
Favorite wide receiver captain? Michael Pittman.
I like you. That's fun. Cheapest captain that you were comfortable playing over on which site? Which site is he asking? The original 6. Let's do FanDuel. Cheapest captain you're comfortable playing.
Oh, on FanDuel. FanDuel's loose, man. I don't think you have to get crazy over there.
Get loose with it.
Don't you? Like, my FanDuel cash lineup looks way better than DraftKings.
Yes, and it should. Pretty much every single week because you can play
FanDuel,
2 quarterbacks.
On FanDuel, I don't think you need to get crazy.
Somebody said I'm leaving $4,900 on the table in the millie. You can do that. Absolutely.
You can do that, yeah.
Watkins or Tucker for cash?
Well, I have them both, but Watkins, I guess.
I'm reading the questions.
I know. I'm trying to do like the mental, it's trying to balance what could you get instead. You know what I mean?
Okay. Andrews or Murray need 10 points?
Andrews.
Ooh, I like that. Also, they didn't say PPR, half point PPR. I think that matters a lot. Need Lamar and Ravens D? Question mark.
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay. Boykin captain?
No.
Yeah, that's a no from me, dog. Andrew or Brown?
Andrews.
Pascal or Williams for cash on FD?
Pascal.
Duvernay or Boykin?
Duvernay.
Boykin captain? No.
I wouldn't.
But is there a but there?
Not really.
Okay. Tucker or Watkins for a tournament? I love Watkins for tournaments.
Watkins.
Yeah, we'll get different. Ty Williams captain? Question mark.
Probably not. Could do it. Don't love it.
Granson thoughts? Question mark. A lot of
like
question
Granson.
marks.
You can play Granson.
Can you really? That's lovely. Murray or Williams in cash?
You don't
Both?
think? First of all, you don't think we can play Granson?
Yeah, you can absolutely play Granson. I was just being facetious. Murray or Williams in cash?
Murray.
All right. Taylor or Hines in cash or both on DK?
Taylor or Hines? I would get Hines before Taylor.
Yeah. I tell you what, this Murray or Andrews question is just popping up a million times. But one more time, last man in. You got to give me a site for that. Mo Alley Cox, is that good?
Mo Alley Cox is good, man.
Okay, Captain Colts D, Lamar Ravens D, Tucker okay, somebody's just throwing it in there. Tyson the optimal in cash? No.
I do not have him there.
Yeah, I don't think so.
He's not based on, I ran a couple projection sources. He wasn't in any of them.
Yeah, I think he's going to be really popular because he's salary savings, but I don't think he's optimal for cash. And I have no idea what to make of his role, and I don't think you need to play him.
I agree 100%. He didn't pop in any of the optimals I ran.
Because I'm playing two kickers instead. Hines
Same.
or Blankenship?
Who was the first one?
Hines or Blankenship?
Hines.
Blankenship or Cox?
Blankenship. That one's really close.
Painful. I felt it.
Blankenship.
Okay, Pittman or Taylor?
Taylor.
Latavius will get 20 carries. It's more of a comment than a question.
Man, that would be a bit of a shock, but it's possible. Like, he wasn't that far off last week.
Jetski, Gachevsky. Let's make that a t-shirt. I'm okay with that. Let's see. I think that's for the most part. Oh, we got 1 minute left. We got 1 minute. These rapid fire messes me up so badly. Sorry, Quinn. I apologize. You're good people, though. Let's see. Anything else? Murray or Pascal?
Murray.
I will take Pascal if you're playing the largest field GPP and you're just trying to get super, super different, because I feel like a lot of people are doing that right now.
I do agree with that.
Brown and Pascal or Andrews and Pittman?
Who was the first one?
Brown and Pascal or Andrews and Pittman?
Andrews, Pittman.
Ravens D captain, question mark.
You can do it. Large field.
All right. We got one more question. And again, we got to give a shout out to Loco here as we're finishing it up. Oh, here we go. Any Campbell love? That's the final question of the night.
Lots
of love for Paris Campbell. That's more love than he even has from his family, because I am mad at that guy. I thought he was going to be actually pretty good in the NFL. He has proven me otherwise. But anyway, that is the Live Before Lock show. We are now officially at lock. That is all. Loco, thank you so much for doing all the news, all the inactives. Jordan Klein, thank you so much for all your work behind Prize Picks. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. Matt Gajewski, any final words for the people?
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for bearing with my, we'll call them technical difficulties, I guess, earlier in the stream. I appreciate you all very much.
Technician difficulties. Anyway, we're going to see you later. He's Matt Gajewski. He's good people. I'm Eric Lindquist. I'm decent. Bye.